All right, guys. So in Revit now, again, by this point, you should have your custom levels all created for your dream house. They should all be looking nice and clean on one of your elevations. So the east elevation is commonly the most used elevation for setting up all your levels. You'll notice if you go through, if I go to the north elevation, right? All those levels are there, but they're not all neatly separated so that I can read them. So when I evaluate your work, I want to make sure that one of your elevations, I can read all of your levels. Then you were asked to create yourself custom wall types. Okay. So when we start drawing walls for our dream house, the first floor that you want to work with is your main floor. The main floor of your house plan creates the overall footprint for your building, which then will determine what your foundation looks like. And it also determines the second floor and any other floors above that, right? Because everything is below or above your main floor. So that first main floor is always the level that we start working with when we start drawing our walls for our house plan. So if I go to my floor plans, again, we're always make sure you're working in floor plans, that you're not working accidentally in structural plans, because see if I put structural plans down, you'll see that I have some of the levels, not all of them, but some. Make sure that you're always working in floor plans. Ceiling plans, sometimes people mistakenly start working on ceiling plans. Again, we don't want that. So always minimize everything that we're not using so you don't accidentally select things. So if I double click on my top of main floor, again, you'll see that I have my orientation markers. So my north, east, south, west, right? So when I go to my east elevation, it's looking at this side of whatever I've drawn in my structure. So that's the little indication it's looking. You'll see it even pops up briefly. Elevation east, that's the view. We want to make sure that all the walls you're drawing fall within these view markers, that they don't fall outside over here somewhere, because when you go to generate, say you want to do an elevation view and you want to render that eventually, well, you're going to be missing portions of your particular house, okay? So the first step when we draw a wall, obviously we're going to go to the wall command. And now it brings up a bunch of options here. We went over in our last lesson on how to create custom wall types. Again, you're going to go find your exterior wall type that you created. In my case, that day in that lesson, we created an exterior stone wall type. So you select the wall type you want. Now, the important part here now is when we get into constraints. So location line. We have different options for our location line. So what this is telling us is that as I start drawing my lines for my walls, this is the location in which that wall will be drawn. So if I click on where it says wall center line, we have wall center line, core center line. So the wall center line is going to basically split your overall custom wall type right in half. Whatever the thickness of it is, it's going to do it right in half. Then we have the core center line. So it's going to do the center point of the core. So in your case, that would be the actual wood studs for your wall assembly. So it's going to be the middle point. So if we have 2x6 studs, which are 5.5 inches thick, then it's going to be 2.75 inches on the center of that core. Then you have finished face exterior, finished face interior, core face exterior, core face interior, right? So it's still important to understand the differences, what all this language is. What does core mean? What does finished face? And what does wall center line mean? Okay. I recommend that as you're drawing your walls, particularly your exterior walls, that you use the finished face interior. So it's going to use whatever values you enter in terms of your dimensions are going to be that finished face interior. So the interior, so the drywall of your building. So if you've decided that one of your rooms is 10 by 10 and it happens to happen in the corner of the building, then you're able to enter those values and it'll give you an exact 10 by 10 dimension for that portion. Now, obviously, again, you have to add in your interior walls that form up the actual spaces that you're creating. But as you go around your building, you should be able to put in the values pretty close, or if not exact, to what they need to be for your plan. So if I pick finish face interior, then we have our base constraint. So this is where we are drawing our wall. This is our starting point. If I click on that, you'll even see a little dialog box come up with some information that helps you. So it's telling you that we're starting at that base where that red line is. Okay, that's what I'm drawing on. You want to make sure that if you're working on main floor elements, that you're actually on your top of main floor level. And at any time too, if you press F1, you'll even get more help on this particular detail. The base offset, 0, right? We want that to be set at 0. Because when we get up to our top constraint, this is where we want, and again, we'll see it pop up here. This is where we're telling the software to go with our wall. So this is where, in our particular case, because I'm drawing a wall, I want to go up to the top of my main floor walls level. So if I go and click here and got my little drop-down menu, here's all my options for where I want that top constraint to be. And in this case, I want to go up to my top of main walls. Top of main floor to top of main wall. So if I click on that, you'll notice that where it says unconnected height, 9 feet. Because that is the distance I've created from my top of main floor to the top of my main walls. That's my main floor wall height. Okay, if you've created a level that's 10 feet, and you pick the base and the top constraint levels, and you don't end up with a value of 9 feet in this little box right here, okay, then there's something wrong with your level. You need to go back and adjust the levels. So always kind of cross-reference and come back and forth and make sure all this stuff's adding up. If I didn't pick a top constraint, which when you start drawing your walls initially, okay, it'll say unconnected, then this unconnected value, it just defaults to 20 feet. And then you'll end up with these gigantic tall walls that you'll be all confused about. So you always make sure that you pick your base constraint, top constraint, and that's it for now that we really have to worry about. Then you're ready to start drawing walls, right? So as I click somewhere on my drawing here, you'll notice as I start to draw, okay, you see how we have that dashed blue, light blue line? That's my finished faced interior. And that value of 16 feet would be the length of the inside of my wall, right? So whatever room happens to have, wherever you're starting with this thing, you're going to use the values you've selected for that particular space, at least from the exterior point of view, to start creating your walls, right? So maybe I have 14'6". So, and again, I can type in 15 feet if I want. If I want it to be 15'6", I'd put a little dash, 6 inches, and hit enter. Draw on my first wall. Then I can start going this way. So maybe it's 13'6", and it'll join. So now I know that from the inside of my wall, from inside to inside, from this corner right here to this over here, I know I have it 13'6". And you just keep going along, right? Maybe that's 5, 9. Again, I'm not going to draw an entire house. I'm just going and doing some random things here. And there we go, right? That's how easy it is to create the walls. And if you have all of your dimensions figured out, then you'll have no problems doing this. If I want to add a interior wall, then I go to my interior custom wall that I set up, right? Location wall thing again, I'm going to go to a finished face interior, top of main floor, up to level, top of main walls, and then I would start drawing. So if I pick this endpoint and start dragging out, so I've created that. So I've created this room now. This room should be whatever dimensions. If I want to do a check, right? I think when I did this, it was, can't remember when I was doing it, but it might have been around 5 feet. And that was 9 feet, right? Because it's a lot easier to, as you're drawing things, to put in the proper values of your rooms than it is to add things later. So then this just becomes a sequence of creating your interior walls to then complete all of your rooms. That's it in terms of drawing walls. As long as you finish, set up your location lines, as long as you're entering your room size values as you go around. Now, you might have to do a little bit of math, right? Because as I'm drawing this wall length, like, so for instance, if I have this wall going here, my west wall, if I have a bunch of walls, interior walls that come off of this, right? So say I had 2 walls coming off of this. Well, if I'm trying to decide how long from inside to inside here needs to be, if I haven't calculated all that, you need to figure out that I have this room, which may be like, say, 10 feet. Then you have to account for your 4.5 inches or whatever the thickness of your interior wall. So add that to your 10 feet. Then you may have 12 feet, so add 12 feet. And then you have your 4.5 inches, so add your 4.5 inches. And then add whatever the remainder of whatever that space is supposed to be. That'll tell you how long, when I'm drawing this straight exterior wall, how long the interior needs to be as I draw it. It's pretty simple. So you might have to do a little bit of math as you're going around creating the exterior. Because again, once I get all these exterior walls drawn in here, I just should be able to use the corners of the exterior walls to start drawing my interior walls to complete all of my interior rooms that I've created for this. Okay? So once that's done, I've got some walls drawn in here, I've got some rooms. Now, I want to add doors, I want to add windows. I want to add other elements to my design. Okay? So it's very easy. We go to door. Okay? Now, you'll notice that it defaults to a single flush door. Okay? And all I have in here is single flush doors. Kind of boring. And it has loaded 30-inch by 80, so that's a standard door size, 30 by 80. But I mentioned before, if we get into taller walls, like 9, 10-foot ceilings, a 6'8" door in a 10-foot ceiling wall doesn't look very good. So you want to get into higher. This is a 7 foot, 84 inches. You can even get into higher doors, 8-foot doors. How do I get other options available to me? Well, I go up to where it says Load Family. Double click on Load Family. And you'll notice that I have all these options. I have doors, columns, casework, which is cabinetry. There'll be windows on here, specialty items, all kinds of stuff. So we're talking about doors. So I'm going to go to doors, double click on doors. Okay? I can go to residential. And then I have all these. So here's a door, exterior double door. I have exterior doors, all these different exterior door types. I have all these interior door types. Double French door system. Pocket door, double pocket. Double sliding, so something that's commonly used on closets. I have different 2-panel designs, 1-panel design, 3, 4. So depending on the particular style of architecture, if you're looking for a more modern, contemporary, this 5-panel door is kind of the thing these days with contemporary modern style. 6-panel is your standard doors that a lot of houses have that you'll walk through, right? But all these different doors, if you're doing more of a traditional house too, and a more, I would say, more of my upscale homes that we did, we went with 2 panels. So say I wanted a 5-panel, right? I open it, and we have all these door options. I have 12-inch all the way up to 36-inch, and I have heights of 6'8", all the way up to 8 feet. So say I have 9-foot ceilings in my particular plan. I want to do 7 foot, right? I can select, and I can hit my control, and I can select all of my options for 84-inch doors. I may or may not use them. I'll hit OK. Hit yes. And now you'll notice that I have door interior single 5-panel 12-inch. And if I click on this, now I have all of these size options for my door. Say I want to put a 30-inch door to go into one of the rooms. And now I just place the door wherever I want, right? So I'm just going to click and I'm going to place that door. It'll cut out, it'll locate the door for me. Now, I've placed the door. I can place the center line. Again, we want to make sure that we're allowing between here and here at least 4 inches. So again, you might have to modify this value, either bigger or smaller, to kind of key that in. And you'll notice if I click on the door, I have all these different properties that I can change on it, right? The key thing is, if you want to change the swing of the door, I can flip this. So one-hand door. So now it flips it around. So in this particular case, when you talk about the hand of a door, it's referenced from looking on the outside of the door. So I'm out here somewhere looking at the door. This would be a left-hand door, okay, with an outswing. I've mentioned before, especially when you go into rooms and bedrooms, it makes most sense, except in commercial applications like this type of building where for safety reasons and exits, you need to have it swinging out if it's an exit door. If you want to change the swing direction, I just hit the flip button and now I've got it swinging in, right? That is how I want this door to swing into this particular space. Pretty dead simple, right? Again, if I want to add an exterior door, so maybe I have a nice exterior door going here. Again, I'm going to go to my architecture tab, door. I'm going to load a family. I'm still in my residential. Maybe I want this door. I'm going to hit open. Again, I want to go to an 8, so I want to do a 72 by 90, and I'm going to go to a 72 by 84. So that's a 6-foot door by 7 feet high. I'm going to hit OK. There's my door option. I place it in my front entry. It's done. That's how simple it is to add doors and load doors to your plans. Once you have those all established, again, Windows, anything I'm doing here is going to be all the same process. So I go to Windows now, right? My only option right now, I have some fixed windows, casement windows, double hung windows. So I do have a little bit more option here. But again, if I don't see anything I like in here, I load the family. I go back to my US Imperial. I go to my Windows. And I got all these different options. I have half rounds, arch tops, casements. So just so you understand, a awning window is the type of window that is hinged at the top of the window, and it actually hinges out like this. Those of you at home, you can't see me demonstrating with my arm, but again, it's hinged at the top, so when you crank it, it flips open so that it goes towards the sky. Casement windows are crank style windows that when you crank them open, they go outwards to the left or the right. And that's what most people will have at home. And you have single hungs, double hungs, right? Single, double hungs. Okay, those are the ones that slide up and down. They don't have a crank to them. Double hung just means that the top and bottom sashes or pieces of the window, they can move independently of one another. Single hung just means that the bottom sash or the bottom portion of the window is the only portion that can open. So again, you would just pick whatever window you want. Again, when you click on it, it gives you a nice little option here. You open it up, you place your window in somewhere, and now I have my window in there. And again, as you place, if I click on this, again, I can set my dimensions to whatever I want it to be. If I want to try to center it in a room, I'll modify my dimensions based on the room size and go from there. If I go up to my 3D view, and now I look at my 3D view of my house, you'll notice I start to get some pretty cool stuff in there. I've got my door with the 5 panels for my interior door. I've got my front door. I've got my arch-topped casement window. And again, depending on your architectural style, right, you may or may not have windows of this type. You may get into, if I go back to my wall types, some of you, if you're going really modern, we didn't get to, we have curtain wall systems. Exterior glazing. So this is where if I got into a curtain wall and I edited the type, right, and I duplicated it, called it my curtain wall. See how it has vertical grid, materials and finishes. So if I go to vertical grid, so that's, if you think of a curtain wall as, if you look at a building, more commercial type buildings, where it's a glass storefront, where it has a bunch of horizontal and vertical aluminum or metal mullions that create the structure that the glass is supported by. Well, that's your vertical and horizontal grid. So again, I can go a layout, drop this down. I can go fixed distance, fixed number, right? So spacing 5 feet. So this is all customizable. Horizontal grid. So all my horizontal members. Again, I could go with a fixed distance and I could use 5 on there. Vertical mullions, the type, right? I can do circular, rectangular, different size rectangular ones, right? Border type, all kinds of stuff I can do. So I'm just going to throw a quick couple things in here to show you what it looks like. And I hit OK. So my curtain wall, right? So say this wall. So if I click on this wall right now, I have my basic stone, right? If I wanted to change that to my curtain wall, I'd go here and I'd look for my curtain wall, wherever it may be. Oh, my curtain wall. And now it changes that to a curtain wall system. So at any time, if I've drawn a wall and I want to change it up, right, because I don't quite like how it's looking architecturally, I mean, that's how you essentially, when in your walls, create a custom wall type for curtain walls. And again, there's options. That because of my length of my wall, because I wasn't exactly 10 feet there, and I was asking for like 5 foot spacing. Actually, I need to have more because it has to account for the actual mullions. So these mullions here and these mullions here, right? It's looking for like to create those at 5 feet wide. So if I wanted it to be exact, I'd have to figure out what my distance here is and do a little bit of math to calculate it. Or I can ask it to evenly space, right? And not have my fixed distances. So those are some of the key things in terms of walls and putting in doors and windows. Pretty straightforward. If I go back to my top of main floor, right? The last thing we want to do is submit some furniture, right? Because when we do our renderings and do our other work, and we want to add furniture, obviously. So if I go back to my architecture and I go to component, okay, you'll see that right off the bat, we get like this 60 by 30 desk that pops up. We even have trees. I can add trees. I can add all kinds of stuff in here, right? If I want to put a couple trees outside eventually when I do my renderings, awesome. right? I can pick an American beach 20 feet, and I can place it out here, right? Put a couple American beaches. But if we want to get into furniture, then I'm going to load family. I'm going to go back here, and I can go to furniture. I got beds, seating, storage tables, right? Right? Shaker bed. Perfect. Going to put my shaker bed over here, which is supposed to be my bedroom. There's my bed placed in the room. So whatever components I want, now I have the shaker bed in here. I can change this now, right? So I put that shaker bed in. I realize, oh, it's only a double. I want to make it a king. There we go. There's my king bed. Hopefully you've done your research well when you design your bedroom sizes so that it'll fit the king bed that you want in your design. I can click on this. I can move this however I want. Position things in my plan. And that process is pretty much the same for everything you want to do. If I go back to my 3D view, there's my trees. If I go to my view, navigation tool, and I orbit, something I haven't mentioned yet is the navigation tool. So there's my bed in there. So again, if you want to navigate around in your 3D view, you have a view cube over here, which you can, so I can do a top view if I want by clicking on it. You notice it's kind of running slow right now. It's a little glitchy. As you're drawing through, the way to resolve that is kind of take off realistic for now. Just go to like hidden line, and that'll help you. And if you take the detail just down to like coarse for now, that'll allow you to kind of navigate things a little quicker. You won't have the lagging in the software as you do this work. And then when it's all done, then you change the views, realistic views for your renderings and all that, and then you'll be good to go. But over here in our view cube, again, we can look at different corners, right? Look at different views, different angles. You also have your northwest. If I want to go to my north view, it'll show my north elevation view. So there's lots of way to navigate around. And again, I have this free orbit navigation tool. This is my orbit. So if I click on this and then I pivot around while holding my left mouse button, right? I can kind of navigate around and look at this from different views if I want. Now, if you want to, so if there's something specific that you want, now you can add files, like for instance, some furniture manufacturers offer RFA or RVT files. That's the file extension you're looking for in order to add things to Revit, okay? Either an RFA or RVT. There is a website. So let's just go here for a second, and we're gonna go Revit City. We go to revitcity.com. Page isn't working for some reason. Let's see what happens. Our internet seems to be lagging a little bit today. While I'm waiting for this to happen, if it happens, there'll be an option to log in. I've created a login for you guys to use. And the login will be Lupish, L-U-P-I-S-H-D, all one word, all lowercase. And then the password will be lowercase s, V as in Victor, uppercase S, 9434, lowercase q, lowercase s. That'll be your login and password in order to be able to download things. So now that we see that Revit City has popped up, if I go to the login, put the username in again, hopefully it's all still active and it hasn't. Okay, it says welcome Lupus D. And again, we can search. And I can search all kinds of things. I can put in grand piano if I want. If I got a nice front room. And here we have all kinds of grand piano options. Baby grand piano, Revit 2015. Now the actual version of the file, as long as it's an older version, it's okay. You just can't do anything newer than 2020 because it'll upgrade that actual file. So if I really like this grand piano, for instance, right? Just gonna go back here. Download now. It's downloaded an RFA to my downloads file, right? So if I go back to Revit, to my top of main floor, component, load family. You go to your downloads, baby grand piano, right? Your model's being upgraded because it was a 2015, and now I can place my baby grand piano in this very special room. And again, it's really as easy as that. I go to my 3D view, spin this thing around, kind of zoom in. There's my baby grand. If I go to my realistic view, there's my baby grand piano with a piano bench in front of it. Right? Now, what I can say is, in terms of this project at this point, the most important part is getting this project actually drawn and modeled in Revit. We've only talked about creating wall types and drawing our walls. At some point along the way, we're going to have to create custom floor types, right? And then create our actual flooring. So whether we want carpets or ceramic tiles or marble or hardwoods, I'll show you how to do that in another lesson. That lesson will be on Thursday. But for now, everyone has tons of work to do in terms of actually starting to draw the walls for their house in the software and adding doors and adding windows. And I would say at this point, adding a furniture should be the last thing that you do for this project. Because obviously when I'm evaluating your Revit skills, I'm looking that you've created good levels. And again, if you're doing this work when I'm telling you to do the work, and if you're submitting it to the Dropbox as per the deadlines, right, you're already doing some of this work that you're going to be assessed on for the final culminating. It needs to get done because now, like I said, now the next step is actually drawing the stuff and creating it. As you can see, it's not really hard to draw it. It's not really hard to create the 3D because all I do is I click a simple little button, which is this little house icon up here, my 3D view, and I'm good to go, right? At any time too, right? If I have this little drop down to show you how easy it is, I can do a camera, right? And I can click a camera here and do a view like this. And then sometimes you have to widen this thing out. It might not be showing me, but I'll demonstrate this. Oh, here we go. So we can do camera view. So that's camera view. So it actually took a shot from below the floor. I was just rushing there. So you'd set up your camera on whatever floor you want it to be and whatever height you want the camera to be off the floor, and you take your camera shot, right? But it's that easy just to create a camera view of what's going on. And then you send all these camera views and your 3D view to the cloud in Revit, and you get these awesome renderings back. So I'm going to stop it there. If you have any questions for you at home, be sure to email me your questions. But everyone has a ton of work to do.